Chapter 2. Santiago. Ernesto became busier as the days went by. There were times when Santiago would only see his papa once throughout the day and through sleepy eyes. But Santiago was used to this. When his mamá was alive, his papa worked long hours as a lawyer, at times leaving the house before Santiago woke up, and coming back when he was already in bed. The only difference was that this was something that his mamá and he had suffered through together. Now it was just him. Still, he did not resent his papa for this. He knew his papa was working hard for both of them. "I can make a lot of money with your abuelo, and in a couple of years I'll be able to pay off all your mama's medical bills, and I'll be able to work less. When this happens, we'll move back into the lake house, just the two of us." Santiago held his papa's words close to his heart. Despite the grandeur of La Hacienda, he missed their old life at the lake house, so he pushed down his loneliness and waited patiently for the promised day when they would be able to regain some piece of their previous life. In the meantime, he figured it would not hurt to try to distract himself by exploring more of La Hacienda. One of the activities he had always enjoyed was reading. Ever since he could remember, his parents read to him, and luckily for him, La Hacienda had a library with tall shelves of books, a moving staircase, and rustic furniture. Most of the books were older, but he was surprised to find some of his childhood favorites that his papa read to him when he was younger. There were entire days that he had just spent reading. When he grew bored of reading, he would spend time out in the courtyard, admiring the different plants or dipping his feet in the pool, basking in the warm summer sun. At times, Santiago wondered about the girl with silver hair that he had seen outside his windowsill. Despite wandering around La Hacienda all week, Santiago had not seen the girl again. As the days went by, he began to forget all about her. After all, his papa had warned him to stay away from her. At the end of the day, Santiago was a good boy and never one to disobey his papa's wishes, even though he didn't completely understand his papa's reasoning. On a particularly hot day, he swished his tiny hands in the coolness of the courtyard pool when he began to hear loud voices. He looked up, and that's when he saw the girl again. She was wearing what looked like some type of uniform, consisting of black boots, black camo pants, and a black t-shirt. Her silver hair was tied up in a high ponytail, the length of it going past her shoulders and whooshing behind her. Santiago was stunned, frozen in place at her sudden appearance, but he did not take his eyes off her as he watched the way she walked between two men, but staying behind an older man. The oldest man wore a black three-piece suit. He was tall, with black and graying hair, furrowed eyebrows, and golden brown irises. "Abuelo," Santiago whispered, realizing who the man was. Despite living in Abuelo's hacienda, their paths had not crossed. He remembered the last time he saw him, that rainy day at the funeral. He was getting in the car when his papa stilled, ordered him to wait, and then closed the car door behind him. As they talked, Santiago felt his abuelo's eyes boring into him through the window, but each time Santiago turned to look, his abuelo's eyes were on his papa's. Santiago watched the way the girl with silver hair walked confidently behind his abuelo, and he felt a small tingle of envy. They turned the corner. Curious to observe her more, he followed her as quietly as he could all the way to the kitchen, where he saw his abuelo and the two men beside him. He noticed one of them was Miguel. "Bien hecho, Anya," his abuelo gave the girl with the silver hair a pat on the head. "Go wash up, and then see Antonio for some food and get some rest. You did very well." The silver-haired girl gave a small nod and then left the room. Santiago made a jerky movement to follow, but ended up almost knocking over a plant. The sound was loud, giving him away, and he was spotted by his abuelo and Miguel. "Santiago?" Miguel exclaimed, with a look of surprise at first, but then he smiled. "¿Qué haces aquí?" Santiago looked at his abuelo, who was staring at him with cold eyes, making him feel small and scared. I was looking for Papa. I thought he had come home," he rambled nervously. Santiago saw Miguel's dark brown eyes sadden. Lo siento, Santiago. He crouched down to meet his eyes. Your papa is still working, but he'll be home soon. I hope you're not getting too lonely without him. I know it's hard. Santiago shook his head. He was not really looking at Miguel. He was looking beyond him, to his abuelo, who was beginning to walk towards him until his shadow completely engulfed the both of them. Miguel noticed this, straightened, and then stepped away from Santiago, allowing his abuelo to stare him down. His abuelo had the same eyes as he did, the same eyes as his papa's, but his were not gentle. They were cold and distant. His eyebrows furrowed in displeasure. He reached a hand out to Santiago, and he flinched. But his abuelo had just grabbed a piece of Santiago's sunshine blonde hair and held it in his fingers. His abuelo then sneered in distaste and walked away, not saying a word to Santiago, but he felt as if he heard everything he needed to.